Have you ever been in a situation where you thought to yourself, nobody gets me? No one understands me. Maybe as a kid, you thought that your parents just didn't understand what you were going through, that because of your situations, whether it's age wise or just experience wise, you just didn't feel like you related to one another. Well, that's a very unenviable situation. It can cause you to feel as if you're alone, as if you have to go after this whole world by yourself. Well, God goes to great extents throughout the entire Bible to show us that He does understand us. And there's some incredible things that He does to demonstrate just how relatable He is to what we're going through. And what I'd like to do today is look at some of those things that he did and help reassure you that number one, you are not alone and that he sees you and that he certainly relates to what you're going through. Therefore, you can trust him. You can turn to him knowing that you're not alone. One of the first stories that I'd like to share with you is found in the book of Hebrews, and it's very interesting what he does. And the Hebrew writer is going to give a recap of when God makes his promise to Abraham. So let's turn to Hebrews, the sixth chapter, and let's start with verse number 13. For when God made his promise to Abraham, since he had no one greater by whom to swear, he swore by himself, saying, surely I will bless you and multiply you. And thus Abraham, having patiently waited, obtained the promise. For people swear by something greater than themselves, and in all their disputes, an oath is final for confirmation. So when God, desiring to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise the unchangeable character of his purpose, he guaranteed it with an oath, so that by two unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul. I find this passage to be so interesting because what God is doing is he's actually lowering himself to make himself relatable to us. He's going to basically adapt a principle that we humans use in order to convince us that he's going to keep his word. Because simply God saying he's going to do it, apparently it isn't enough for us humans. And so, again, he wants to relate to us and he wants to help us trust in him. And so, he does something that's on our level, something that we understand. So, let's take a closer look at this. Notice what he says in verse number 16. Now, mind you, God is going to take an oath or he's going to swear. I swear I'm going to do it. So notice what he says in verse number 16. He says, this is how people behave. He says, for people swear by something greater than themselves. And you can relate to this where someone swears on the Bible, right? When you go to court, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. And what did they place their hand on? The Bible. Why? Because it's greater than yourself. And he continues on, he says, and in all their disputes, an oath is final for confirmation. So you can have people that are arguing back and forth and back and forth, and eventually someone says, I swear I didn't do it. And, typically people are kind of like, okay, I guess we can believe him. Well, that human principle of if someone swears, we pretty much can believe them. Well, God uses that same principle to convince Abraham that he was going to keep his promise. Let's keep reading. He says, so when God desired to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise the unchangeable character of his purpose, he guaranteed it with an oath, so that by two unchangeable things, now he says, I want there to be two things that help you understand that you can trust me. Well, what's the first thing? Well, he says, It is impossible for God to lie. Number one, you can trust me because I can't lie. But if that still isn't good for you, then here's number two. I swear by myself that I will keep my promise. And so now we have God given the oath. Those are two things that he's doing just to convince us of how trustworthy he is. And let's keep reading. What does he say? He says, so that by two unchangeable things, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul. What do we have as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul? An unchangeable God who said it, who promised it, and it's going to happen. And we can hold on to that with great assurance. And I just love the extent that he went to just so that we can believe him, just so he can reach our level, so he can be relatable, so he can understand what we're going through. God says, look, I get it. You're not going to receive this blessing today. I understand what you're going through. How about I help you have a little bit deeper faith? Number one, remember, I can't lie, but also this will help you out. I swear I'll do it. That's God showing himself to be relatable. And I just love this story. If we look at yet another story, I'm reminded of Gideon. This is in the Old Testament during the time of the judges. Gideon is a warrior. It says he's a man of valor. And God comes to him, and we're actually in Judges chapter 6. God comes to him in the form of what's called the angel of the Lord. And he tells Gideon that I'm going to deliver the people by your hand. And Gideon, who is a man of valor, a man of war, is not exactly believing it. And so God works with him to help him have belief in the purpose that God is giving him. So let's quickly look at Judges chapter 6 and start with verse. And the Lord turned to him and said, go in this might of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you? And he said to him, please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said to him, but I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man. And he said to him, if now I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that is you who speaks with me. And so God does give him a sign. If you continue reading, Gideon goes off and he prepares some food and he brings it back. And the angel says, hey, put the food on the rock. The angel causes fire to come up from the stones and burns up the food. And now Gideon believes. And that night, Gideon goes out and he tears down one of the idol statues, an Asherah pole. And God is with him through this whole ordeal. But again, we as people, sometimes we just need a little bit more encouragement, and our faith is not perfect yet. And God relates to that. And so if we continue reading, Gideon, he has a couple of more, let's say, tests for God. Like, if I want to believe you, God, but you got to help me out here. And so he puts God through two more exercises. The first, he says, hey, I have this fleece blanket. And if I lay it on the threshing floor, how about this? How about you make it to where all of the threshing floor is dry, but dew is only on the fleece? And so God says, okay. And the next day he wakes up, there's only dew on the fleece. And then Gideon says, be patient with me one more time. How about we try this experiment again? But this time, how about the fleece is dry and dew is on all the rest of the threshing floor? And God says, okay. And he does the sign for him again. Again, this is God totally being relatable, totally working through us, totally understand what we're going through, and not judging us for it, but rather working with us and helping us through it. And that's how good of a God that we have. The last example that I want to share with you, I just absolutely love this passage. It's actually two passages. Let's first start with Hebrews chapter 2. Hebrews chapter 2. This is the greatest example of God demonstrating just how much he loves us, but then also doing it so that so that we have this relatable experiences that we're going through the same thing. Hebrews chapter 2, starting with verse number 14, he says, "Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood," in other words, since they're humans, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. For surely it's not angels that he helps, but he helps the offspring of Abraham. Therefore, he had to be made like his brothers in every respect, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God to make propitiation for the sins of the people. And get this, for because he himself has suffered when tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. Again, this is a wonderful passage where the writer in Hebrews is actually expressing to us some of the reasons why God took on the form of humanity and came down here. And it talks about the fact so that he could actually share in the same things that we shared in. And so that he could be tempted, just like we were tempted, so that he could experience hunger and thirst, so he can experience having family and then having family pass away and grieving through it. He could grow through the same experiences like we are, so that he could be that perfect high priest that we need. And then if we jump down to chapter 4 in the same text, chapter 4 and verse number 14, listen to what the writer says. Since then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. The author says, Jesus totally gets you. He totally relates to you. What you're going through, he's been through it. And might I add, he handled it really well. He didn't even sin. So, yes, he understands your plight. Yes, he understands your struggle. Yes, he understands your joy. Yes, he understands your pain. And with that, it should give us great confidence that the decision that we made to follow Jesus is the right decision. And that when we are feeling as if no one else gets us, we should have the confidence of knowing that he does and that he's already been through it. And not only that, he's willing to help us. And with that, the author says, we then should come boldly to the throne of grace so that we might find mercy and grace in our times of need. He says, when you're in that situation and you're looking around, know that there's someone that can absolutely relate to what you're going through. He sees you, he understands you, and he's more than willing to help you. And all you have to do is come to him boldly, just like Gideon was with his bold request 3 times, asking God to show him a sign. We have that same privilege and we should exercise it because he wants us to exercise that. Why? Because he cares for us and because he can relate to everything that we're going through. I want to read this passage one more time. Hebrews chapter 4, verse number 14. Since then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Thank you, Jesus.